Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of What's Hot with Sea Tranquility. I'm your host Pete Pardo, publisher and CEO of SOT. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. So, every now and then we kind of come across a little omission in one of our shows, which one or more of our loyal viewers happens to point out. So today we're actually going to revisit one release in the Led Zeppelin remasters series, and it's a big omission, and I'll get a little history of kind of I think why it happened. So let's go back to 2015. So we did part 1 and part 2 of the Led Zeppelin remasters series, and the original intention was to do on the first part Led Zeppelin 1 all the way through to Houses of the Holy, which we did, right? And in full knowing that Physical Graffiti and Presence and Into the Outdoor and Coda was coming, were to be released by Jimmy Page and the record company shortly thereafter, right? But I think the reason, for whatever reason, okay, the gist of it is, for somehow, in neither of those episodes did we tackle Physical Graffiti. And I think the reason was that Physical Graffiti was kind of released on its own, and then we got Presence Into the Outdoor and Coda, like, I don't remember, 6 months, 8 months later, or whatever it was, or 4 months later. And I think by the time that those last three were released, I had thought that I had covered Physical Graffiti in the first edition, the first episode, when I did the first episode, I fully intended for Physical Graffiti to be covered in the second. So somehow there was a gap there, and this monster was never talked about by me. Shame on me, of course, because this is my favorite Led Zeppelin album of all time. And, looking back on it, I really don't understand how this happened, but it did. And thank you for a couple of viewers who pointed that out just this week. These are almost 3-year-old videos here. So, you know what? As one of you viewers suggested, it's never too late to do a episode all on Physical Graffiti. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So let's think of this as kind of like the unboxing and all that kind of stuff. So here we have Physical Graffiti, released in 2015. As we've talked about in the other episodes on the Led Zeppelin remasters, I think Jimmy Page did a spectacular job on these remasters. There's a real clarity of the sound and a kind of separation of the instrument. This is not just let's make these albums loud or let's add distortion to them. There's a real kind of ability to hear all the little nuances of all the different musical bits and instrumentals and vocals and all that sort of thing. I think Jimmy did a really nice job on them. Never mind the fact that the packaging on these are great. I'm a packaging guy. I'm an old LP guy from back in the day, so I really appreciate when back when I was a kid, you'd get an album with a jacket with the lyrics and maybe a poster and all sorts of other odds and ends and stickers and things like that. So I really appreciate what Page and Company did on these remasters, because the packaging are nice. They're mostly all in these nice digipacks with lots of great black and white and color photos of the band back in the day, mostly live, some in studio, some photo sessions and things like that. Really, really cool lyrics, information about the album. So anyway, so Physical Graffiti, if you remember, if you had the LP back in the day, big thing, pull-outs with all the little windows of the brownstone house from, New York City, I believe this was. And same thing on the back. So if you pull the jacket out, you get the little letters, right? So first disc, okay, 3 discs in this set. I bought the 3-disc edition. You can get, I think, the Super Deluxe has with the LP and CDs and DVDs, all sorts of stuff. I don't have that. Disc number 2. And then disc number 3, which you'll see is the photograph, okay, and like the negative photograph of the album cover. We're actually listening to disc 3. These are all the outtakes and alternate versions and all the bonus stuff. Really good, interesting bonus stuff. Then we got the booklet here, and then of course, there's the kind of insert there, right? So very similar to the original LP. So what do we get on this? All right, so the booklet. Again, I love these booklets on these Zeppelin remasters. Very, very cool live photos. I mean, you can't beat this. If you're a true fan and a collector, you got to have this stuff because, in many cases, these are photos most of which I had never seen before. You know, there's a few that have been published, but unless you own everything by Led Zeppelin, every piece of memorabilia, every concert program, every poster ever made, so on and so forth, you're probably going to get some stuff in these remasters that you've never seen before. So the actual album, it's a classic. This is back in the day when, you know, most bands didn't release double albums because record labels, you know, that was career suicide. Granted, some bands did that. You know, Chicago's first 3 albums were all double albums. That worked out well for them. Yes released Tales from Topographic Oceans right around the same time as this. And that was kind of controversial, but, you know, sold well. And, you know, this album, Physical Graffiti, was kind of half made up of leftover tracks that didn't make it onto their previous albums and new songs. But you got to admit, considering that some of these are leftover tracks that they didn't use on other albums, probably the best collection of leftover tracks ever in the history of rock and roll. Okay, just classic stuff. Some of my favorite Zeppelin tunes of all time are on this album. Custard Pie, great tune. What a great lead-off track, kind of funky. The Rover, my personal favorite Zeppelin tune. Heavy, one of the heaviest songs they ever did. In My Time of Dying, just an absolute epic. What else we got here? Houses of the Holy, okay. Title track from an album that was already released that they didn't put on that album. Interesting there. Trampled Underfoot, another great song. And of course, Kashmir, the most popular song on this album. And again, released as a single and an FM radio staple. Again, back in the day where, you know, 8+ minute long song. Kind of taboo back in the day, but Zeppelin made it work. Zeppelin were famous for some of their longer epics. What else we got here? In the Light, really good uplifting song. Bon Voyeur, Down by the Seaside, 10 Years Gone, Night Flight, great song. The Wonton Song, another killer hard rock tune from this album. Boogie with Stu, great bluesy song. Black Country Woman, and of course, Sick Again, great outro to this fantastic album. So on this third disc, we've got, like, again, as is the case with most of the Zeppelin remasters, you've got a selection of alternate takes and outtakes and instrumental versions of songs and songs with different lyrics, so on and so forth. So you got on here Brandy and Coke, which is a sort of different version of Trampled Underfoot. The music is basically the same. You got some different Robert Plant vocals and different vocal sections, which is kind of neat. You got an early version of Sick Again. You've got a rough mix of In My Time of Dying. And then you got another version of Houses of the Holy. And then a very cool, what do we got? Everybody Makes It Through, which is a early version of In the Light. And then we've got another mix of Boogie with Stu. And then Driving Through Kashmir, which is a rough orchestra mix of course, Kashmir. So, pretty cool. I think the bonus disc, the bonus disc on the Zeppelin remasters kind of vary in kind of quality of what you get there. Some are worth a cursory listen, and then you'll probably never listen to them again. I think the tracks that Page chose to include here are actually pretty cool and worthy of repeated spins. Of course, nothing, would it be nice to have had some, live stuff? Certainly. But I think, there's still a treasure trove of live recordings from all the years of Zeppelin touring that's out there, and hopefully some of them will see the light of day officially at some point. But anyway, that's Physical Graffiti. So all sorts of cool stuff here. The album sounds, like I said, sounds great. You got cool packaging, get all the inserts. It's just a landmark album. It's my favorite Zeppelin album of all time, and it's one of my favorite albums in general of all time. It's just a heavy rock classic, but again, it shows the variety and styles of music that Led Zeppelin brought to the table. The heavy rock, the blues, bits of folk. They kind of did all this stuff and kind of combined it into their own sound. One of the most unique bands of all time. So that's it. I am Pete Pardo. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the mighty YouTube. I want to thank everybody for all of your positive praise on the Black Sabbath retrospective that Chris Allen and I did recently. If you haven't watched part 1 or part 2 yet, you need to do it. It's a lot of fun. We had a blast doing it. It's very informative. If you have any interest in Black Sabbath at all, hopefully we've given you an exhaustive 2 hours worth of everything about Black Sabbath. So we've got more stuff coming, so make sure to tune in each and every week. Make sure you subscribe, okay? Because we're pumping out videos left and right. You don't want to miss any of them. Until next time, take care. See you soon.